Hello and welcome to Doctor in a Bikini. I am launching a new segment. This is episode number 1 of Anonymous House Calls with Doctor in a Bikini. I've got a new friend with me. I'm super excited to chat with her, and I hope that the discussion we have today is helpful for people. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share my story.
Yeah, no, I was so excited when I reached your message on social media. I was just really impressed, and I knew that this was going to be an amazing segment because right off the bat, you just shared so much with me, and I'm like, wow, that's so forthcoming, and I know that you're not the only one that has gone through even an ounce of what your message shared, so I'm really excited about today's episode.
Yes, I'm excited to share too, and I think it's important to spread that hope for the people that are in a similar situation, because I remember at one point in this journey being in that point where I needed that hope and I couldn't find it. So it's something that I kind of promised myself I would do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I guess for those who don't know you, can you give a bit of background about your involvement in the bodybuilding world, just to kind of paint a picture of how long you've been in the sport, what division you're in, your goals, things like that?
So I've wanted to compete for like the longest time, and it took me about 20 years to actually commit to following through with the process. I did my first show last August, so in 2023, and it was like a bucket list item. I wasn't planning on doing any other shows, but the day I pulled up to the show, I was like, oh, this is not a one-time thing. I am definitely going to be doing another one. So I've done one show, and I'm currently in prep to do another in the bikini division.
I love that. What got you into bodybuilding in the first place?
So I've always just been really interested in health and fitness, and it's all like it always has been an interest of mine. And I ended up going down, which I'm sure we're gonna talk about, a deep dark path after I had my first son, and so I kind of stepped away from it for a bit. But as I started to heal my relationship to my body and myself, I really started to come back to it. So I guess it's just something that I've always been intrigued by. And the self-growth through it is just, it's undescribable.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this deep, dark path that you went through. I guess let's start from the beginning of how did this path start, and what are some things that you noticed, if you could paint a picture of what you went through?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2011, I had my first son, and I know this might sound crazy to some people, but we plan for the baby to come. We read all the books, we buy all of the things. And I knew my body was changing, but I really didn't prepare for my body to change the way that it had changed. And I'd never really been like an overweight person. I'd been in sports my whole life. I did competition cheerleading and stuff. And after I had the baby and I looked at my body, I was just like, whoa, what happened? And I was so self-conscious. So I started to put my worth into the way that my body looked, and I was bound and determined to get that body weight off. And it didn't matter how I did it. I just wanted it off. I figured that if I were to lose the weight, that everything in my life would be better. I thought I would make more money. I would have a better marriage. I thought I could be a better mom. I'd have more confidence, all of these things. And that's really where the spiral started.
Yeah, no, I think what you said there is such a valuable point. It can be really easy to think that this big life change is going to fix all the problems. And when people mention this, it just makes me think of, how people say, bodybuilding is the problem. People say, I would never because of this. And I think you're a perfect example of, I don't necessarily agree in my personal opinion that bodybuilding is a problem, but I think it might put the magnifying glass on what you may already be dealing with under the surface. And then it's just a force to be reckoned with. And then you realize, oh, wow, these things I wanted to change or shift in my life, they are still there, even though I'm participating in this hobby. And now I kind of have to deal with them. And I think for some people, if they're not in the right, headspace or phase of life to deal with those, I feel it would probably be really easy to say, oh, bodybuilding messed me up. I could never do that again. It gave me all these things. And I don't know. So you mentioning that, it makes me think of that because I resonate a lot with what you're saying too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's one of the reasons why now that I look back, that I'm grateful it took me 20 years to get there. Because it was almost like something, if you believe in God or the universe or whatever, is like, nope, you're not ready. You're not mentally ready. You're not mentally ready. And then finally I was there.
Yeah. And how old are you now? I don't think I've ever even asked you that.
I'm 38.
Okay. I feel like I know all these people in the world and everyone's age is just a mystery. Everyone just looks great. Everyone's just living their best life. And I'm like, oh, it just basic questions never come up, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess given that you were saying that you were hoping all these things maybe would improve or change, what was the first sign of this process where something wasn't right, where you felt like you were developing some unhealthy behaviors?
So I had a few friends while I was pregnant go to like a weight loss clinic. And I was like, okay, I'm going there as soon as I can. And I ended up getting on the drug phentermine. I was on that off and on for a really long time. Even I had my second son, I wasn't taking it while I was pregnant, but I had my second son, same thing. I went straight to the weight loss clinic, and it just didn't matter what or how small my body got. It was never enough for me. I was never satisfied. It was never enough. I was just chasing things, chasing being smaller. And I had gone off of it for a couple months, and I started to have these symptoms of ADHD, like pretty hardcore symptoms. Like it took me one day an hour to an hour and a half to unload the dishwasher. And I remember crying to my husband, like, something isn't right. And I really wasn't thinking about the weight at that time. I was just like, I can't function throughout my day. So the same clinic that I went to get the phentermine from, I went to the doctor there. And she was like, well, I think you're self-medicating your ADHD with this drug. And she had me do this assessment, and then she prescribed me Adderall. And that was really good until it was really not good. It was like a couple months of maybe things being good. And then I quickly became addicted to that drug. And I thought it was the magic pill because I didn't eat. It kept me small. I could I could run a million miles an hour and take care of the kids and run my business and all of these different things. And the day that I decided to take more than what I was prescribed was probably the day that really turned things around. But it wasn't probably until a couple months into that, where I was running out of my prescription really quickly, did I think, okay, this is a problem and something needs to change.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that too, because I'm sure other people that have way more knowledge on this topic than I do would love to weigh in, but I know there's got to be some repercussions with our diet, our hormones, our overall environmental stress, and contributing to whatever brain fog or spaciness, and on top of whatever underlying attention disorder we might have. Did you already have any ADHD behaviors before all this, or was it just emphasized during that time?
Looking back, yes, I believe I've had it for a really long time. But I hadn't really noticed it. And I'm sure that coming off of the stimulant that I was on before just caused those things to be, to show up even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine. I don't think people give enough credit. I mean, you mentioned so many things between being a parent, being a business owner, being a human in our current society and the state of it. And then also with the changes of bodybuilding, so many things could contribute to just not feeling like ourselves. I can't remember if I've asked you, but your coach, did you have a close relationship with your coach during that time?
So during that time, I wasn't working with a coach. I was with an MLM company, and that was part of the issue, because it was pushed like, create these transformations and you're going to make more money. So I'm like, okay, well, let's just do whatever we can do to create these transformations, because that's going to make me more money. And unfortunately, that's the way that it was pushed upon us. So no, I wasn't working with a coach at that time.
Yeah. Did you know of any friends in the industry or anyone that you chatted with other than your husband about this?
During that time, no.
Yeah. I think that's a a valuable question to ask, because I think, I mean, I know this is no secret, but I feel like we never know what people are struggling with behind closed doors, whether that's, just feeling that they're not doing enough, not feeling it themselves, or like you said, participating in a habit, or, I guess I don't want to say like a compensatory mechanism, but I guess kind of, because it doesn't naturally come up with our friends, hey, how's prep? It's great. I'm great. Well, you look great. You look skinny. And I'm sure that probably would have been hard to turn to somebody like, well, actually, here's what I'm going through, and here's how. I don't know. Did you feel like that? Was that kind of a tough time as far as relating to people?
Yeah, and to be honest, those comments fueled it. Like it just made me be like, okay, well, I got to stick with this. I got to do this. And I remember even admitting to my husband at one point, like, everyone's drinking and stuff. And I was drinking at that time too. And they even like some people around me would use marijuana and stuff. And I'm like, all of these people are using these drugs, but I'm using this drug. And wouldn't it just be nice if I could just tell everybody? I know that sounds so crazy, but these are the thoughts that were going through my head. Like I knew that I was abusing it. And I would say it was like a year and a half in where I was like, okay, that like I need to make a change with this and do something. And I didn't have anybody to turn to besides him because I didn't want anybody to know what I was doing.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I know this isn't like normal cup of coffee talk, like, hey, tell me all the things during this dark time that, well, I mean, I guess maybe if you're an empath like me, you're like, let's talk about deep things. But I really do want to take a minute to just appreciate the fact that you're being honest about all these things, because I can tell you right now, 100% someone listening is in the spot that you were in during that time. And maybe they just don't really know how to communicate that, or they're not ready to maybe assess the why behind where they're at this time. So what would you say, while we're on that topic of, I guess, those crazy, I think is the word you used, or wild thoughts, what was another moment you had looking back that you're like, wow, I just kind of looked past that, or wow, that was kind of a not so hot moment for me? Was there anything like that that stands out to you?
Yeah. So for my 30th birthday, we like to do a lot of off-road riding. So we went to this off-road town here in Arizona called Crown King, and we rode there, stayed the night there. And I had taken so much Adderall. I can't even tell you how much I was taking. On the ride back, again, my husband was the only person that knew. And I thought I was having a heart attack. And we had all of these other people with us, and we were on the side of a mountain. And I just told my husband, I said, you need to call a helicopter. Somebody needs to come pick me up. And it was hard too, because I actually have a friend who's a pharmacist. And so I almost got to the point at that moment where I almost told her what was going on. And maybe she, knew just from the way that I was acting. I'm not really sure. I've actually never had that conversation with her. But that was a moment where it was really at the point where I'm like, okay, this, something has to start to change. But that was a really hard moment.
Yeah. I can imagine. And again, just with my knowledge, do you remember what maybe the recommended dosage was versus maybe what you were taking on a more normal basis?
Yeah, I believe it was like 7 years ago, but I think I was on like 20 or 30 milligrams throughout the day. And I would take anywhere between 60 and 120 milligrams in a day.
Yeah, that's definitely a steep change for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
With that, I guess, while we're talking about how much, can you paint a picture of, and I know I'm really asking some like deep questions, so I appreciate you. As far as your routine, I guess, not just how much you're taking, but from when you woke up to when you went to bed, what did your day look like at that point in time?
So I would wake up and I would try to work out before I took my Adderall, because it would get my heart racing so fast that I would be afraid to work out, because I'm would think my heart was gonna explode. So once I took the Adderall, it was like a time crunch. Every 3 to 4 hours, can we take more? Can we take more? Can we take more? And then by the time we would get to the end of the day, I'm like, how am I going to sleep? So then I would pop open a bottle of wine and I would drink a bottle of wine to get me to go to sleep. And I wouldn't say that I don't drink alcohol now, and I wouldn't say that alcohol was my drug of choice. It was just something that I was using to help me to go to sleep. And of course, then you wake up the next day, you have a hangover, you pop another Adderall because that's going to make you feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's actually, I was going to ask you that too. If you participated at all in any sort of drinking or recreational use, or if you were just like, nope, I don't engage in any sort of alcohol or drug behaviors at this point.
Yeah, so even after I stopped taking Adderall, which will be 7 years next week, thank you. I still drank. I drank up until 2020. So I'm almost 4 years alcohol free. And I even after I stopped, I didn't really consider myself like an alcoholic or had a huge problem with it. I just kind of did an experiment in 2021 trying to see what would life be like without alcohol. And I liked it so much I never went back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a valuable point too, because I again could imagine if someone were in that position questioning, okay, what am I allowed to, for lack of better words, engage in? What are fair boundaries? Do people, if they know this about me, are people going to look at me any different because I just want to have a glass of wine with my friends at happy hour? I think those are probably very real questions that people might struggle with.
Yeah. And I will say that I kept my recovery a secret until I had a year. So only my husband knew. Nobody else around me even knew what was going on. And I have had conversations with my mom because I'm really close with my parents afterwards. And she's like, I knew something was off, but I couldn't quite pinpoint it. And we have addiction in our family. So it's not like it was anything new that she had seen. But she's just said, you were like a tornado when you would come in. She's like, at one point, I thought your husband was going to divorce you and leave you. But again, she couldn't quite pinpoint that it was a drug that was causing this all to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's like you're reading my mind. I was going to ask next, how was that for your marriage? I mean, can you talk a bit about, I know it sounds like he was really there for you during that time. Can you expand a bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I am blessed with the person that I married, and he is my best friend. And he was just really supportive. And unfortunately, I don't think he knew how to help me at that time. So his coping mechanism was just to enable me and just support me in every way possible that he could, even if it really wasn't helping me in the long run. So we've had conversations about this now, and he looks back and he's like, I'm so sorry. I should have called you out. I should have done these things. And I tell him, like, you were just doing the best that you could with what you had. Nobody has a rule book on how to handle somebody when they're going through this. So luckily, he's been through it all with me, and no matter what, has supported me through it, and now knows that he can call me out if I'm have some kind of crazy behaviors going on.
That's really healthy. I think, again, if you were to substitute, let's say, the use and abuse of a substance with even something that's less severe, like validation or whatever behavior we need as competitors, because I think a lot of things in the sport can be addictive. Mm-hmm. And I think our partners or our friends don't always know how to best support us, even if it's just like a body image thing. You mentioned wanting to feel small enough. If I turn to my husband every day and say, do I look fat? Do I look this? Do I look that? And then they always just soothe me. Then again, it's like, it's not going to fix the problem, but what do they know? They're just trying to be a supportive spouse, whatever that looks like. And they just want you to know that they love you and support you, but there's no guidebook, like you said, on how to best support your competitor and whatever these million things that they may or may not be going through. It's really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did have that conversation going into bodybuilding with him, like, hey, you're allowed to call me out. If you see that I'm doing something that is not healthy for me, because that was my main things when I found my coach, and then also having the conversation with my husband is I'm willing to do this if I can keep my mental health in check. And I'm not willing to go to any lengths in order to win or, go to the next level or whatever it may be. Like, I have to come first, and we always have to check in there.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned that you are so protective of your mental health in the sport and that you are most important, because I think most of us should have that mindset when it comes to participating. Is it is a hobby, it is a sport, it doesn't define our worth, and no matter what our success looks like in the sport, it's not worth compensating our relationships and our health.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some ways that, given just everything you've been through, what are some ways that you check in with yourself and your mental health while participating?
So for me, my morning routine is like sacred to me. And yeah, getting up in the morning before everybody. I know I'm that crazy person who loves to get up early, and but just having time for myself. So reading a book, I journal a lot, and just reflecting daily. I also do this thing where I recommit to myself every Sunday. So I kind of do like a check-in, like, okay, what went good last week? What do I want to change? And where are we mentally? I will say that this prep has been a lot more emotional than my first prep. I think the newness and the excitement of not knowing what's coming next has kind of worn off. And so I've really built up my toolbox over the past 7 years and just pulling out anything I can when those feelings come up.
I love that. You're so right. No prep is the same, at least in my experience. What has made this prep particularly more emotional for you?
I think that for one, I think we had a lot more going on. My kids were all in sports. It was the end of school year. Last year, I prepped through summer, and so it was kind of more relaxed, and we didn't have as many things going on. I had a few business trips through this prep. We also took a different approach. Last prep, we did a very slow decrease. In this prep, we kind of went hard and fast, if you will, and then kind of like coasted for a bit, like this last month, and then we're going to dive back down again. And so I think I wasn't quite like mentally prepared for that, but there's been a lot of growth through it for sure.
I love that. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned during this prep?
Trust the process, and just putting one foot in front of the other and recommitting. I know that was like 3 things, but like recommitting every single day. Like sometimes it's like every single hour, right? Like we have the ability to recommit to ourselves and continue to grow through this process. And I think that's what keeps me going. Whereas if I would have done this in the past, it would have been all about the way my body looked. And to be honest, like that's a cool side effect of this sport, but that's not the reason that I do it.
I love that. And I have another question based on what you said there, because I know you've listened to the podcast, so you've probably heard me say this, but I feel like a lot of these lessons, they resurface, or they might be packaged slightly differently. Like, to be transparent, since I feel obligated to share, since you've shared so much with me. So like the other day, I haven't had this moment in a long time, but I had a really tough day mentally. Not a tough day, I should say. There was a point in the day where I had a moment where comparison snuck up, and that hasn't been a big theme for me in a long time. So I was like, whoa, where did this come out of? And it was complete accident. Basically, someone that I know of is doing the same national show as me. And I just had like an oh crap moment, because everyone looks amazing, right? Mm-hmm. Especially on social media. You're like, wow, look at this and that. And it was total accident. And then I just found out she was doing the same show. And it was just like another mirror saying, hi, me again. Remember that lesson about not comparing yourself to others? Yeah, we're back. So I feel like my point there, how it relates to you, even when we get more proficient with using the tools in our toolbox, like you said, about maybe identifying our own feelings or knowing where they're coming from, how to address them, how to be proactive with whatever we're navigating in the moment. I guess for you, if you find that those old small little whispers come up, like how small we're looking, how do you like to approach those small little whispers and be like, nope, mm-mm.
Yeah. The one thing that I implement is you're allowed to have feelings, but you're not allowed to act on your feelings. And so one of the things is I'm very self-aware, and sometimes that kind of is annoying, if you will. Because you're like, do I really need to like dissect the reason I'm feeling this way?
Oh my gosh, yes, so relatable.
So when those feelings pop up, that's the first thing that happens is like, all right, you're allowed to feel frustrated. You're allowed to feel like you're not looking good enough, all of those things, but we're not allowed to make decisions based on those feelings. Tomorrow is a new day. Like, let's get through that. So that's one way that I really tend to deal with those things that come up, is just evaluating the feelings, but not making decisions on them.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. Yeah. I think I can completely understand to what you mean, where it's like a gift and a curse. The fact that we get to have that awareness to be like, ooh, I have something I need to sort through, and I need to sort through it right now to understand and feel better and get over this hurdle. And sometimes you're like, okay, maybe, you know what, I'm just going to sit in these feelings, but it's okay if I don't quite understand them. Or like you said, I don't need to make a decision right now. I'm just going to acknowledge that maybe not feeling so hot at the moment, but that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. And either taking it to my journal, praying, meditating about it, all of those things I will implement.
Are you a crystal girly, or are you just like your journaling, or what's your vibe?
I'm a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I'm very much into spirituality, and I have crystals everywhere. I don't have any right with me right now, but definitely into all of the crystals. Sedona is like one of my favorite places.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So my very green aura logical husband, him and I did a little mini honeymoon in Sedona.
Oh, fun.
And it was really sweet. I was really proud of him. He wanted to go to the top of this rock together. And he picked out some crystals with me that day because he knew that I'd want to go to a crystal shop. And we said like a little prayer and intention about like our marriage and our future when we were at the top of the mountain. And he was getting all witchy with it. Like he was one with the red sand. He was doing something with the sand. And I was like, oh, look at him go.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So he loves to poke fun of me. I come in the door with more crystals. It's like there's the plant wife and there's the crystal wife. And he's like, oh God, there's more of them. Where are those going to go, Shannon? You going to put that one at the door sill? All right. Well, I'll be over here if you need me.
Yep, that's my life.
Oh
my husband brings in the plants. I bring in the crystals.
There we go.
He's like, more rocks? Yes.
I wish I was more of a plant person, but my green thumb is actually really sad. I'm the one that kills plants in the household, but I'm looking for tips. So
I'm the same as you. He takes care of all of that.
Gosh. When I was going to say too, when you are backstage, do you take like anything with you backstage for good vibes and good intentions?
This time I didn't. I was just so like not even, I like to know how things go. So like I did all of this research, like what's going to happen from this time to this time. And you can't really find out a lot about that in places.
No, so anyone asking, we never know, even when we're backstage.
Yeah. So no, I didn't take anything this time, but maybe next time I will.
Yeah, honestly, the spiritual girly in me, one day when there's Doctor in Bikini, large audience, and there's like a whole merch store. This is a little nugget. No one's allowed to steal it from me. But one of the things I think would be kind of cool is if I made and sold these like good vibes kits.
Oh yeah.
I always have my amethyst back there. I've got my black tourmaline and some selenite. unless something feels different. But those are like my go-to ones where I'm just chilling. I got my headphones, I got my crystals, and I'm like taking a nap backstage, just unbothered.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea too. Selenite is my favorite crystal.
Ooh, yeah. Fun fact, a patient told me, because you're also in Arizona, a patient of mine told me that, and I don't know like spirituality wise, but I guess, and I've seen them, I guess at Ross, randomly they'll have a bunch of selenite sticks for sale.
Oh,
So
well, I'm going to check it out.
in case you need the mass quantity and you don't want to pay the mass price, now you know where to go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, sorry, I scrolled off. See, I can understand with the attention behaviors. Is there anything, I guess, about the journey that you overcame that we didn't talk about? Because I tried to ask you as many questions about what you were going through. I know you said that you found, I guess, what's the words I'm looking for? I know you said that when you found that moment of, okay, I need to change things, and you embarked on that journey forward. I guess, is there anything else in that timeline that we didn't talk about?
It took me about 6 months to actually follow through with giving up my addiction and, surrendering to the healing process. So one of the things that I would, if anybody is going through the same thing, I would say is, even if you're like fighting with yourself, like, you need to quit, but you're not, like, continue to have that conversation with yourself, because eventually you're going to draw that line in the sand and make the decision to step into recovery and to heal what you need to heal through that.
Mm-hmm. And for those who are listening that maybe they know somebody or they are currently going through this, what is a piece of advice you would give them as far as making that first step or talking to somebody? What do you think is something that you would like to hear if you were in their spot right now?
For me, what I wanted to hear was somebody that had success on the other side. And so if you have to Google and you have to search and you have to read and you have to listen to connect to other people's stories to hear that there is life after whatever it is that you're struggling with or going through, like, do that. Hope is a strategy. I used to believe for the longest time that hope wasn't a strategy until I had no hope. And so that would be one thing that I would say is just like really trying to connect with people who have had success stories. And then if you do have somebody that you can talk to or go to, there are plenty of resources out there. There are meetings you can walk into, finding a doctor who can help you with different things. There is help out there. You just have to take the first step.
Yeah. I think another valuable thing to mention to people listening to, again, whatever specific struggle they're having, and this is something I have to remind myself too when I'm going through something, is that what we're going through isn't a weakness. If we are admitting that we're struggling, or if we aren't feeling, quote, perfect to our own standards, or we found ourselves in a hole that we're not even really sure how to get out of, I think number one, the most important thing is to remember that there's no judgment. We've all been somewhere, and it doesn't make you any less than just because you're in the trenches right now. I think that's really important to emphasize.
Absolutely. And it's something that's hard to come to terms with, but it's absolutely true. Everybody's going through something, and you're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really appreciate you being that voice for those people, being so transparent about everything that you went through, and the fact that you have such success and you have such a fulfilling life on the other side, like you said, between your family and your business, and finding a healthy balance within competing. I mean, you are walking living proof that just because you have gone through a time of struggle doesn't mean that you can't have the life that you want to live.
Yes, absolutely. And, I've always heard the sayings like, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. And I never truly understood that until recently. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I went through all of that for a reason, whether it be to come on here and share and maybe connect with somebody else, or just to lay the foundation for me to build what I'm building now and doing what I do now.
Yeah, I love that statement. I'm going to remember that one. There's nuggets from each episode where someone randomly just drops a knowledge bomb on me. And I'm like, ooh, that one's going to hit really good later.
Yeah.
It's true. If people are sitting in this moment where they're like, I don't understand what I'm feeling. I don't know where to go. Okay, I understand everything teaches us something, but I don't understand the lesson of what I'm going through right now. It just sucks. So that's a really helpful statement where you said the dots don't make sense looking back, but they will. Or sorry, looking forward. See, I messed it up, but they do looking backward. I think that's really comforting actually to know this may not make sense now, but later I know that I'm going to be stronger because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Well, thank you so much for hanging with me today and for kicking off this new segment of Anonymous House Calls with Doctor in a Bikini. If anyone listening has any submissions that they would like to share or any questions they have, I can always send them to my friend too. Who knows? We may even have her on another episode. We'll see. TBT. Oh my God. TBD. Oh! I would like to give a disclaimer of prep brain. Yes, please share your stories, even if you're not sure, because I think sometimes, myself included, I'm like, I don't know, what do they want to hear from me? So worst case is you reach out and say, hey, I would love to chat about this, and I bet you it's valuable. So, but first and foremost, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I know that people are going to love hearing your story, so thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for doing this because it's going to create a massive ripple. So you're doing great things.
Oh, thank you. So I told you off camera, so I have to tell everybody this was Connor's idea. So I can't even take credit. He just thought, it'd be really cool because not everyone's going to want to come forward and share everything. And he's right, actually. Certain questions that I asked you, I don't know if I would have pressed in the same way if it wasn't an anonymous call, because I almost had to, again, empath brain, step out of my normal self and be like, normally I wouldn't be like, ask this, proceed with this. I would be like, if they want to talk about it, it'll come up naturally. So really, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm really excited for this segment. And I'm even more excited that we got time to formally chat, because it's one thing to chat with people through Instagram, but I love having this time with people. Well, have a good rest of your day, everyone. If you don't already, make sure to follow all of the shenanigans on Instagram and send me those stories, send me those inquiries. And I hope that y'all have a great week. Bye, guys.